New voices from across Maryland call for a solution to youth crime.
They need to fix the Juvenile Justice Reform Act.
And it's only going to get progressively worse.
A look at the demands for change from elected leaders and law enforcement.
Let's correct it. We'll work with you to correct it.
Alarming state test scores in Baltimore City schools. Fox 45 News Project Baltimore shows you testing data not yet released to the public. How results from the best schools in the city raise the biggest concerns.
We need to hold the school CEO and the administration accountable.
A bar right across from Camden Yards is broken into.
What is happening to the city? The city is deteriorating.
We examine the struggles these popular businesses are facing, even as Orioles' success should be drawing fans downtown.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. On the eve of acting BPD Commissioner Richard Worley's confirmation hearing, juvenile justice laws are in the spotlight in Baltimore and really across the state.
From City Hall to Carroll County, Fox 45 News is hearing calls to change the current system.
The systems that we have now clearly need work. Every single aspect of it from the top to the bottom must be looked at.
We told them this is exactly what was going to happen. And if you can't listen to the people that are doing this day in and day out, who are you going to listen to?
Tonight, Mackenzie Frost presses Mayor Brandon Scott on Baltimore's juvenile crime crisis. Vincent Hill has police perspective on the issue.
And our team coverage begins with Keith Daniels after a joint public safety meeting with Baltimore City and Baltimore County leaders. Keith, what was their message tonight?
Well, Mary, you had two council members, one from the city and one from the county, both of them coming together, they say, for one goal, and that is doing what they can to help control what's being called a juvenile crime crisis. At the Edward Meyerberg Center in Northwest Baltimore, a joint public safety meeting.
I'm really glad that we're all here.
City and county residents there with questions and concerns.
It would be great to know what can be done
for city and county leaders.
Thank you for your comment.
Muriel Roberts, a Baltimore County resident.
Things are just different now.
Alan Barnes lives in the city.
I think there's a lot to be concerned about.
Two residents, both concerned.
I'm terrified.
About crime in their communities.
The frequency of car stealing and carjacking. I've been reading about the assaults on people.
Right now, everybody is worried about juveniles. And
The speed limit to 100 miles per hour on interstate highways and then questioning why we're not writing more speeding tickets on the interstate.
Making a plea to lawmakers to make a change.
A mistake was made. Go back immediately, look at the legislation, and let's correct it. We'll work with you to correct it. If you don't work on this immediately, and you say we're going to look at it in January, and we're going to ask the governor to sign it in April, May, or June, and it's effective in July or maybe October, the wake of victims is going to be tremendous.
That same plea coming from Baltimore City's FOP president, Clyde Boatwright, on Fox 45's Morning News.
We are collectively begging for our elected officials to do something about this crime crisis.
He's voicing his concern about the Juvenile Interrogation Protection Act, which keeps police from talking to any child until they have spoken with an attorney.
And we have this barrier up that we can't speak. I mean, and that could mean someone's safety. You know, just the fact that there could be a gun laying somewhere, there could be another person in danger.
Boatwright says he was not invited to last week's hearing on juvenile crime, but is asking for a seat at the table when lawmakers meet again in November. And Sheriff DeWeese even making a plea to Governor Moore to work with law enforcement about real solutions to what seems to be a never-ending problem. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
And it's not just law enforcement voicing concerns. A dozen prosecutors across Maryland are calling for changes to the juvenile justice system. Those prosecutors represent about 5 million people and nearly 82% of the state's population.
Now, despite those calls for change, Maryland House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson have been non-committal about changing the juvenile justice laws when Fox 45 News pressed them about it this week.
It feels like there's not a lot of urgency happening. Why is the General Assembly not moving quicker to get a handle on this before more people's lives are impacted by this?
Look, I push back to say that there's not urgency. It's something that I'm talking about with other members and my community every single day. It's probably the thing that keeps me up the most at night.
Should there be a special session to address the juvenile crime crisis right now?
This is something I will be discussing with my chairs. I don't want to be in the media and saying, oh, Speaker didn't talk to us. We're going to be having meetings.
Well, this isn't the first time Jones and Ferguson have balked when it comes to crime legislation. Governor Larry Hogan pushed two tough-on-crime bills for years, the Violent Firearms Offender Act and the Judicial Transparency Act. A watered-down version of the Transparency Act passed last year, but no version of the Violent Offender Act ever did. And that bill passed in the Senate twice, but never made it through the House. It didn't make it out of committee this year. The Senate president told Fox 45 News he would not bring it up again unless Jones and the House took action first. Critics also say lawmakers dragged their feet when it came to a bill backed by City State's Attorney Ivan Bates. The language of that bill, which raises the maximum penalty for somebody who's 21 or older with an illegal firearm, was rolled into another bill. It passed just 2 days before the end of the legislative session.
As Vincent mentioned, one group of lawmakers met to talk about the juvenile crime crisis last week. They'll meet again in November. Political analyst John Deedy says state lawmakers need to take action to address the juvenile crime problem instead of just talking about it.
What the leadership is doing in many times is expressing a sense of urgency with rhetoric. The action is going to be, what are they going to do in January? And frankly, right now, I think they are not sure how to deal with this as far as what to do. The clock is ticking. By the time the session meets in January, they have to have a plan in place, and a plan that, the governor will definitely get behind. And frankly, I think the governor should be doing more leading on this.
Today, Fox 45 News sent questions to Senate President Ferguson and House Speaker Jones asking, what legislative plans do you have to address the juvenile crime crisis? Why does it appear there is a lack of urgency to take action in this matter? How do you respond to community advocates who claim the General Assembly has blood on its hands in regard to juvenile crime? And why has the General Assembly to date ignored calls to change juvenile justice laws on the books? How do you respond to people who say this threatens the safety of 6.1 million Marylanders? We asked for a response by Friday evening. So far, we have not heard back.
House Speaker Jones and Senate President Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you want to talk with them about juvenile justice laws, we have their phone numbers and email addresses on your screen right now. You can also find their contact information on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
When lawmakers meet in November, they will look to Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi for policy recommendations. Despite the calls for change, Schiraldi says children don't belong in the adult system.
They start to sort of think of themselves as little 12-year-old thugs, and they self-identify in ways that we really don't want them to. If they're under 13, we can provide them with services informally or the joy.
Months ago, Schiraldi wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post saying he didn't believe anyone younger than 21 should be in the adult criminal justice system. He stood by that statement in an interview with Fox 45 News in May. He also says parole and probation doesn't necessarily make communities safer. Fox 45 News spoke with Eurypsy Morgan, spokesperson for the community activist group Peace. She believes lawmakers will listen to Schiraldi and concerned they won't listen to police, prosecutors, and parents.
I think he, as the head of juvenile services, plays an incredibly important role. I mean, he's the captain, right? He's the quarterback. He's the one who's going to guide this organization in the direction that's going to go. There were already a lot of questions that were asked when his name first came up for appointment from Governor Wes Moore, and whether or not his philosophy, his very progressive philosophy, matched with what we need, particularly in Baltimore.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust the state legislature to pass laws that protect your safety? So far, 94% of people who voted say no. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote.
All right, all eyes on the next weather maker after a cool start in the 50s tomorrow and highs again near 80 tomorrow afternoon. We look down here toward Florida, rather disorganized round of rain and thunderstorms from Tampa all the way up to about Orlando. But oh, look what happens, at least on our GFS or American Future Scan computer model as you work into Friday. System really gets together. Look at that circulation. Almost looks like a tropical system potentially. And potentially some strong winds, some heavy rain, and maybe even some coastal flooding going on through even Sunday. But I'm going to let you know how long that could be lasting around here. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, Maryland is over the top excited as the Baltimore Orioles move closer to postseason play, but some downtown business owners are frustrated after being hit by crime. As juvenile crime continues around Maryland and the country, we pressed Mayor Brandon Scott about solutions. What happened when we asked him what needs to change? And Project Baltimore is showing you test scores not yet released to the public that are hard to believe. What it says about the top performing schools in the city.
More stunning findings by our Project Baltimore team after Fox 45 obtained unredacted state test scores for every school in Baltimore City.
Now, these results have not yet been released to the public, but Chris Papps has been analyzing them, and what he discovered is hard to believe, even at the highest performing schools in the city.
When it comes to the most recent Maryland state test scores,
I can't tell you how horrible that is.
There's a consensus.
Parents, guardians, supporters need to be outraged.
What Project Baltimore discovered in these unredacted test results is a problem.
Do you find it acceptable that there's 13 high schools in Baltimore City with no students proficient in math?
No. At 13 Baltimore City high schools, not a single student who took the 2023 math exam in the spring scored proficient. Not one.
It's sad and it's disheartening because today, more than ever, the school system has the money and the resources.
We obviously are not doing enough.
This is when people get fired.
Project Baltimore made the discovery after a source gave us the unredacted test scores for every school in Baltimore City. The data has not yet been released to the public, but we didn't just find 13 city high schools with 0 students who tested proficient in math. We also looked at the city's top schools, and what we discovered there may be just as alarming. According to the state test results, these are Baltimore's 5 top performing high schools in terms of math proficiency. At these schools, a combined 809 students took the state math test in the spring. 92 students tested proficient, meaning a total of about 11% of students are proficient in math at the best high schools in Baltimore. When Maryland public school students take the state test, their scores place them in one of 4 categories. Level 1 is beginning, all the way up to level 4, distinguished. Of the 92 students who tested proficient in math at the 5 best Baltimore City high schools, all 92 tested into level 3. There were no level 4s. In fact, there was not one high school student in the entire city in math who achieved the highest level of proficiency. City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises last year earned $445,000 in total compensation.
And I will just continue to say,
of Maryland's 24 public school systems, she's the highest earning leader. And since 2016, she's been leading the state's lowest performing district.
if I were mayor right now,
Sheila Dixon, a Democrat candidate for mayor of Baltimore, says she's seen enough. She has already called for the CEO of city schools to resign. Tuesday morning, she appeared on Fox 45 News, calling for more accountability.
We've got to have answers, and we can't just get a press release from the school system saying that we're working on it.
City schools will not do an interview with Fox 45 to give the public answers. But the district did explain in a statement that in 7 of 8 grade levels, math proficiencies in spring 2023 did increase from the previous year. The statement went on to say, "We acknowledge that some of our high school students continue to experience challenges in math following the pandemic."
One singular person is never the solution or the single problem.
While some city leaders are calling for Santelises to resign, others, like State Senate President Bill Ferguson, are standing by her.
I have a great deal of faith in Dr. Santelises. She is incredibly thoughtful.
Ferguson told Fox 45 that education is a continuum, and he doesn't hold any one person accountable because he says if a student is not performing in high school, that likely means the student didn't receive enough support in elementary or middle school. But it's worth pointing out Dr. Santelises was in charge of city schools when these high school students were in elementary school. She's now been the CEO for more than 7 years. A 10th grader today was in 3rd grade when she took over.
Obviously, we have to have unbelievable urgency to it's not acceptable where we are, but that doesn't mean that the entire system is broken.
We need to hold the school CEO and the administration accountable.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Adnan Syed is calling for an investigation into the prosecutors who worked his case. Coming up, why the Attorney General says that's not going to happen.
Deadly directions from Google Maps. One family's lawsuit against the company after an issue they say has been happening for years.
And tracking the next weather maker as it moves out of the south across portions of the Atlantic, potentially as a somewhat tropical system all the way up toward the mid-Atlantic by this weekend. And some computer models are putting out a heck of a lot of rain, some wind too. I'm going to let you know what I think our solutions are going to be for the weekend and how it could impact your weekend plans. And my Weather Authority forecast coming up.
Well, for now, it looks beautiful as we take a live look at Taos. And as we head to break, we'll be right back. Taking a look now at the Fox box. Top left, MGM casinos and hotels back to normal after 10 days of a cyber attack led to a company-wide shutdown, including at Maryland's National Harbor. The extent of the breach is not clear, including what information may have been compromised or how much it cost the company.
On the top right, the family of a man who died after driving his car off a collapsed bridge in North Carolina is suing Google Maps, saying he followed its directions off the bridge. The family accuses Google of negligence, claiming residents repeatedly tried to get the company to route traffic away from that bridge for years.
Bottom left, 12 Florida jurors will decide former President Donald Trump's fate in his classified documents case. Experts say the jury could lean in Trump's favor because they will be drawn from 5 counties that voted for Trump during the presidential election. The trial is set to start in May.
On the bottom right, Arizona Republican Carrie Lake is expected to launch a Senate run next month. She's a close ally of former President Trump. Independent Senator Kristen Sinema currently holds that seat. Arizona is a crucial swing state. It could determine control of the Senate.
Well, ahead at 10:30, a bar break-in near Camden Yards. Fox 45 News looks into safety concerns around the stadium as the Orioles' winning ways are bringing people downtown.
A tough day to be America's Attorney General as Republican lawmakers square off against Merrick Garland, accusing him of playing politics. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington to explain why coming up.
Fox 45 News is following 3 big stories at 10:30.
Adnan Syed calling for an investigation into the prosecutors who worked his case tonight. The Maryland Attorney General responds.
Juvenile crime like shootings and car thefts skyrocketing across Baltimore. Mayor Brandon Scott shares his concerns about the juvenile justice system.
And a string of recent burglaries leaving Baltimore business owners on edge as thieves are using weapons and stolen cars to help carry out their heists.
Well, just this morning, a bar in Camden Yards saw its shelves ransacked, according to police, by young people.
That's right. Fox 45 Jeff Abel joins us live now with how the break-in went down and why residents and business owners are looking over their shoulders these days. Jeff?
It is the latest in a string of burglaries that are crippling some businesses and leaving others fighting for survival. In the heart of downtown, the Orioles may be winning, but the business community
It is a big problem.
is still hurting.
They were getting robbed every other week.
Restaurant owner Tony Asadi has watched lately as burglars vandalize and terrorize the downtown community. And early this morning, Section 771 became the latest victim. The bar and restaurant sits just steps from Oriole Park. And just after 5 this morning, burglars crashed through the front door, stole an unspecified amount of property, and haven't been seen since. Owners aren't commenting, but neighbors are.
Not afraid. If they're not afraid, they're going to do whatever they want to do.
When one business is attacked, Asadi believes the entire community suffers. Oriole Park may be selling out this season, but businesses, he says, are still suffering.
They park, they go to the stadium, game is over or close to the over, they get in their car, back in the highway, out.
So the mayor should be talking about, we care about your safety when you come to Baltimore. We take that very seriously. We're doing things to make you safer in a city that has been quite dangerous historically.
By late afternoon, the window was replaced and Section 771 was back open. But the burglars are long gone.
They got away with it. They might go come and do it again. What is happening to the city? The city is deteriorating.
Well, in some cases, Asadi says some stores are being burglarized as many as twice a week. In this latest case, police have made no arrest. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Well, several other businesses have been burglarized over the past week. Yesterday, it was Star Life Kicks in East Baltimore. Owner Anthony Mason says his entire business was ravaged in just a matter of minutes. Thieves got away with about 500 pairs of shoes, all while driving a stolen van. Then today, a West Baltimore gas station manager shared surveillance video saying the station was robbed 3 times over the weekend. Each time, teens raided shelves and shattered doors before escaping in a stolen car, according to police. The manager says he wanted to go after the thieves, but he saw a gun in the car.
I know my life was in danger. Control these kids, you know, do something about it to protect our life, our business, our community.
Well, so far, no arrests have been made in connection to any of these recent burglaries. Anybody with information is asked to call Baltimore police at the number right there on your screen.
Now, these crime concerns are coming as Fox 45 News presses Mayor Brandon Scott on juvenile violence in Maryland. Mackenzie Frost found him today and shares his thoughts on the current system.
Mayor Scott says the entire juvenile justice system needs to be rebuilt top to bottom, and we pressed him multiple times on specifically what that means.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here today.
Immediate availability for Mayor Brandon Scott, giving us a brief chance to question the leader of Baltimore City on what he's asking lawmakers to do to help curb the surge of violent crime among juveniles, especially as kids are driving the car theft numbers through the roof in the city.
What specifically are you looking for to the Baltimore City delegation or other lawmakers in Annapolis to make changes when session starts?
I'll say what I said before anybody else was talking about this issue, right? Long before folks in the media were thinking that the state had anything to do with public safety in Baltimore, I said that we need a completely new system built from the ground up. The old system that we had didn't work. The systems that we have now clearly need work. Every single aspect of it from the top to the bottom must be looked at.
Mayor Scott touching on the need for a more robust home monitoring system, which has been an issue. In April, a 12-year-old Jalen Richards was gunned down in South Baltimore.
He was on house arrest due to the streets that somebody destroyed my nephew to these streets. They still was dragging my baby to the streets because he was a minor.
And most recently, at least 2 people arrested in connection to the Brooklyn Homes mass shooting already wearing an ankle monitor, including 18-year-old Tristan Jackson, who was under the supervision after police say he brought a loaded handgun to Merville High School earlier this year when he was 17. Even after multiple attempts to get more details.
But specifically, what are you looking for?
All of it. I'm looking for us to look at every single aspect of how we deal with young people when they are caught in the justice system. all of it has to be looking at, every single aspect.
Does that mean you want to see those two laws repealed?
That means I want us to look at every single aspect of it, top to bottom, to build a system that works.
The mayor avoiding answering specifically what he's calling to change. Those two laws in question, the Juvenile Justice Reform Act and Juvenile Interrogation Act. The Reform Act prevents kids 13 and younger from facing certain nonviolent misdemeanors, and the Interrogation Act limits when police can question a minor without getting permission from a parent or an attorney. And the law's at the center of the debate as the conversation swirls about how to hold young kids accountable for their crimes. Police and prosecutors from Maryland argue the laws hinder the justice ability, while juvenile crime numbers continue to climb.
And while the mayor talks about revisiting the home monitoring situation, it's unclear what other aspects or areas of the juvenile justice system the mayor wants lawmakers to really tackle when session begins in January. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Juvenile crime is a concern in Baltimore County, especially the issue of stolen cars. Councilman Julian Jones joined us on Fox 45 News at 4 o'clock today, saying children aren't getting the help they need to keep them away from crime.
It's illegal. It's not a victimless crime.
Right.
And it is giving them the wrong impression and the wrong idea, especially if they're able to do it and not have any intervention or any help at all. We're just failing these kids.
Well, Councilman Jones also says lawmakers need to set an example for younger kids, saying kids are more likely to turn to activities like car thefts if they see their friends and older siblings getting away with it.
Well, juvenile crime in Baltimore expected to be a topic of discussion at tomorrow's confirmation hearing for Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley. He and Acting Fire Chief James Wallace are both scheduled to be confirmed tomorrow. Today's Baltimore Board of Estimates put the brakes on new contracts for both Worley and Wallace. They'll wait to vote on the contracts until after tomorrow's hearings. Mayor Brandon Scott addressed that decision.
We had a conversation with the council president and comptroller, just as a move of us showing our commitment to transparency and our commitment to hearing our colleagues in government out. We decided to push this back until after the confirmation hearing, which will happen this week. And we strongly believe and know that both of these gentlemen who are capable, who have relationships, who've been working in these departments in the city for a long time, will be officially nominated through the council process.
Well, if the council rejects Worley's nomination, he will be entitled to a year's salary in severance. Worley lives in Anne Arundel County right now, and the contract will provide him a housing allowance to move to Baltimore. His contract has a start date of June 8th, the same day former Commissioner Michael Harrison stepped down. The 3-year contract ends June of 2026.
As for Acting Fire Chief James Wallace, Mayor Brandon Scott nominated him to lead the fire department in July. Now, he's been with the department for more than 30 years and follows Chief Niles Ford, who stepped down late last year following a scathing report on the department. Worley's hearing is scheduled for 5 p.m. Wallace's hearing is scheduled for 6:30. And Fox 45 News will have updates on both hearings throughout the evening, so stay with us. By the way, you can also follow us along on the air and online on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Well, Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown will not investigate the prosecutors in Adnan Syed's case. Brown says he doesn't have the authority to investigate those allegations, saying he can't comment any further because of ongoing litigation. Syed appealed to the Attorney General yesterday, saying 2 of the prosecutors on his case mishandled evidence and witnesses. Syed also says one of the 2 attorneys colluded with Steve Kelly, an attorney for Heyman Lee's family.
From the very beginning of my case, from the very outset, prosecutorial misconduct was present. We're asking the Attorney General's office, Mr. Brown, to please conduct an investigation.
Syed is expected to be back in court in 2 weeks, appealing the decision to reinstate his conviction and sentence.
Let's go live to Capitol Hill right now, where lawmakers spent hours questioning Attorney General Merrick Garland. That hearing focused on fairness, or lack thereof, in the opinion of some members of Congress, surrounding recent investigations into Hunter Biden and former President Trump.
Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman has both sides of the issue.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury?
The nation's top law enforcement official, Attorney General Merrick Garland, in a congressional lion's den Wednesday, accused by Republicans of running a 2-tiered system of justice.
They see the DOJ, of course, aggressively prosecuting
President Biden's chief political rival, Mr. Trump, while at the same time, they see slow walking and special treatment given to the president's son. That's just a fact that everybody can see with their own two eyes.
I am not the president's lawyer. I will add, I am not Congress's prosecutor.
They allege Garland intentionally took so long with Hunter Biden's tax evasion investigation that the statute of limitations ran out, essentially erasing the case. Donald Trump's biggest offenders also going after Jack Smith, Garland's special counsel, and Garland's appointment of David Weiss, who they say has been soft on Hunter Biden.
And he's the one you appointed to pursue the charges that could implicate Joe Biden. That leads me to only two explanations, either corruption or incompetence. So which is it?
Mr. Weiss was the Republican-appointed United States attorney appointed by President Trump.
Do you at least see the obvious double standard?
Democrats mostly defending him.
You are decent. They are not. You are fair. They are not.
The reputation for the Justice Department is on the line when they have these incredible high-profile investigations. The public needs to have confidence that the DOJ has followed the law and the facts, that they're not prosecuting somebody for politics.
All of this setting the stage for next Thursday when the House will hold its first impeachment inquiry hearing on President Biden. And reports indicate that Republicans want to subpoena Hunter Biden as well as the president's brother. On Capitol Hill, I'm Scott Thuman.
Still ahead, high energy prices are getting in the way of the Federal Reserve. Why the Fed didn't choose to hike interest rates today.
And some big rain, maybe some wind on the way for the weekend. But for now, bust out forecast looking good. In the morning, temperatures in the 50s rising to near 80 degrees. We're tracking that potential coastal weather maker. Could be heading our way with big impacts. That's my Weather Authority forecast.